Tell me when to start.
Go ahead and start.
Hi, nature explorers. How are you? We're so sad that we aren't able to all get together over at the park for our Flower Power camp, but we hope that you're still going to enjoy all the activities and things we have planned for you. So, those of you who have been in camp before kind of remember me and know that I like to tell stories. So, I wanted to tell a story this week called The Star House. So, it's been kind of an odd school year for you guys this year. You've been at home a lot, and you can probably remember what school usually is like, where you go to school and then in the summertime you get out of school, and then come fall you go back to school again. That's how it was when this story takes place. There's a set of twins. Their names are Ellie and Eli, and it's getting towards the end of summer, and they have played with nearly every toy they own. They have hiked all the different fields and places that are around their homes, and they've gotten to the point where they got bored. Now, I'm sure you're not bored yet, but maybe you are. So you know. Ellie and Eli went to see their mom, who was out in the garden. She was getting ready to pick vegetables from the garden for dinner. And they said, "Mom, we're so bored. We need something interesting to do. Can you find us something to do?" And she suggested all kinds of different toys, and they said, "We did that. We were over there. We did all this stuff." So she finally said, "Well, there's one thing that I could really use if you could find it for me. I need a little round red house with no doors and no windows, but with a star inside. Do you think you could find me a house like that?" And Ellie and Eli looked at each other and thought, "I never saw anything like that, but we could go look." So off they scurried to try and find their mom this little round red house with no doors and no windows and a star inside. And they looked in the yard, and they looked in the garage, and they looked all over the place, and they came up with nothing. So they went back to Mom and said, "We're not finding this. Are you sure this thing exists?" And she said, "Yeah, I'm sure. Maybe go check with your father. He's up the house getting ready to mow the lawn. Maybe he can help you and point you in the right direction." So off they scurry, and they find Dad, and he's getting the mower already, and they said what Mom was looking for. Mom wants us to find a little round red house with no doors and no windows and a star inside. Do you have any idea where we should even look for something like that? And Dad thought about it and scratched his head, and he said, "I don't know." He said, "But I know who might know." He said, "My mom, your Meemaw, she used to be a teacher. She read lots of books in her day. Maybe she has some kind of an idea where you might find something like that." So Ellie and Eli go scurrying off to Grandma's, who lives next door, and they found her sitting on the back porch. She had a cup of tea and one of her really good books, and they asked her this question: "Meemaw, have you ever heard of a little round red house with no doors and no windows and a star inside?" And Meemaw said, "Well, I think the best way to figure this out is to sit down and have a cup of milk and some cookies." They like going to Meemaw's house. So they got their cookies and milk, and they sat there and discussed and figured and pondered and tried to figure out where they would find such a house, and they couldn't come up with anything. So Meemaw said, "You know, sometimes when I come up with a problem or a question and I have a hard time figuring it out, I'll run next door to Farmer Brown. He knows a lot about what's going on in the world, and maybe he can help you." So Ellie and Eli finished up their cookies, and off they ran next door to see Mr. Brown, Mr. Brown. And they found him in the field, and they said, "Mr. Brown, our Meemaw said that maybe you could help us with this problem. Earlier today, our mom sent us out on this mission. She would like for us to find for her a little round red house with no doors and no windows and a star inside. Have you ever heard of such a thing, and where would you even look? And Mr. Brown, he kind of thought about it, and he pondered, and he scratched his head, and he said, I don't know, but sometimes when I have a problem and I can't figure it out, he pointed to the hill. He said, you see that apple tree at the top of the hill? I'll go up there and I'll sit under that apple tree and I'll get myself quiet and I'll ponder and I'll listen to the wind. And sometimes the wind will give me the answer. Maybe you guys should try that. So they thought, well, that sounds like a good idea. They were kind of tired from all the work they'd been doing all day, and they thought maybe just sitting still might be a good thing for a little bit. So up the hill they went, and they sat under the apple tree. And it took them a little while. You know how it is to get yourself quieted down and settled and to get to where you can just hear the wind. And so they sat, and eventually the wind came, and it was swish, swish, swish. And all of a sudden, an apple fell on the ground. Ellie picked it up, and she said, look, Eli, it's an apple. It's red, and it's round. And Eli said, well, it doesn't have any doors or windows. And Ellie said, do you think there's a star inside? And Eli said, I can't imagine. How would a star get inside an apple? She said, I don't know, but we could ask Farmer Brown. I saw he had a little knife with him when we were talking to him. Maybe he could cut the apple open and see if there's a star inside. What do you think? And so up they both jump, and they grab the apple, and off they go to Farmer Brown's. So, I don't know. What do you think? Do you think there might be a star inside this apple? We'll have to check it out and see. So, you have an apple. You could maybe slice it open and look inside.